All right, hey everybody. We're going to go over rendering out your animations, how to set up a camera in Lumion to either pan or move back and forth, and then we're going to mess around with a couple rendering settings, and then I'll show you guys how to render out your video to a playable video file. So we're just going to set something like this up real quick and just kind of go from there. You don't need to have Rhino open for this, so I'm just going to open up our falling water scene, which I've already got popped open. This is the rendering settings window. Our build looks something like this. And then in order to set up camera movements and renderings and animations and all that kind of stuff, you'll have two icons down here. You have photo, which is for a still rendering, and then you have movie. I'm going to jump right into the movie settings just so we can start to look at how to keyframe a camera moving around and then do some general rendering settings. So you'll click this little movie icon, and I've already got a bunch of stuff set up here. You guys, this should all be blank, but basically what you do is you can set up a series of what are called clips. Each one of these is a 10-second or however long you want it to be animation, and you can play each one of them. So I've got one that kind of pans from left to right. I've got a second one that also does a pan just from a different direction. Then I've got a third one that does more of like a swoop in kind of movement. Okay. When you're setting up your cameras, these shots to me are a little bit nicer, a little more cinematic, just kind of the left to right movements, as opposed to the more roller coaster effects. But you can do both, and we'll show you how to kind of go through and keyframe each camera type for that. So what we're going to do is you can select the first one. I'm going to select the fourth one here just to go over how to set up a clip from scratch. So you'll select one of your open clips, and then you're going to go up to record. Okay, and this is going to pop open this guy. Down here you've got add camera keyframe, you've got your time, and then your preview button. So right now this isn't going to do anything, and it's set for 2.02 seconds. So I'm going to bring this back down. I'm going to double click here and type in 10, make this a 10-second long clip. And then when you're in this screen, you can use the same controls to move the camera around. Okay, so WASD, E and Q, and holding down your right mouse button. So what I'm going to do is I'm going to kind of replicate that left to right movement, back up a little bit so it's a little bit different. Let me go a little bit higher and then drop myself down some, about right here. Okay, what I want to try and do is set the camera so that's looking directly straight on. So you want to try and get all of your horizontal edges to be parallel. So that edge is parallel to my video size, or my video frame. And then you want to try and get your vertical edges to be parallel to the left and right edge of your video frame. One thing that's going to help you do this is you have this little horizontal eye level button, and that's going to snap it so that all these vertical edges are truly vertical. So you want to click that. And then what we're going to do is you'll add a keyframe for this so that this is our starting point. Click add keyframe. Okay. So the camera is keyed to that location at 0 seconds in time. Okay. Then what I'm going to do is I'm just going to hold the D button so the camera starts to pan from left to right. And end. And then I'm going to add camera keyframe. Okay. Now, for whatever reason, it forced that time length to be 25 and 37 ticks of a second, so 25 seconds and 37 milliseconds. We don't need it to happen for that long. It's a really long time. It's going to go really, really slow. So we're just going to kind of reset that. So I'm going to set this back to 0. I'm going to select this, come over here, double click, type 10, and hit enter. And now that jumps that down to 10. All right, so now this will take 10 seconds to move from one side to the other. That's about as fast as you want any camera movement to be. Any slower and it's going to feel like it takes way too long, any quicker and you won't really be able to understand what's going on. So we'll just leave that as is. And then you can come in here and add as many keyframes as you want to get the movement that you need. You can also come in and insert keyframes at any moment in time. So I can play this, hit the pause button, insert a keyframe. Maybe I move in a little bit. And then you can also update camera keyframe. So now I just updated. So now it's going to kind of do one of these things. Okay. And again, it keeps adding time. I'm not really sure why Lumion does that, but all you have to do is kind of set yourself. Just kind of lock this in, set this to, let's say, 5. And then I'll take this, so it looks like it made the whole thing 5 seconds. So we're just going to go all the way to the end and set this to be 10. And then the whole thing should take 10 seconds. So you just kind of have to like reset it each time, which isn't a big deal. Okay, and you always want to do your clips in sort of these little increments of 10 to 15 seconds, or else things are going to get way too convoluted. And then what you'll do is you can bring the individual video files into After Effects or something like that and do transitions and all those kind of effects. So we're just going to leave this like this. So once you have your camera set and keyframed, you'll just come down here, save clip, and go back to movie mode. And it added that clip down here. And you can hit the play button to preview that clip. All right. The last thing you want to do before we hit the render button is come up to FX, and where it says custom style, click that. And there's all these different kinds of pre-made styles that you can add. Realistic is probably the best one, so I'm just going to click that, and it changes all the lighting to look pretty nice. You can come in here and mess around with all these effects. So these are all the different effects that the realistic style applies to your video. And you can go in and sort of change brightness, sky movement, all this kind of stuff. And really kind of dive into all the environment effects that you can get into. You can also click FX and add any kind of effect that you want. So let's say I want to make the sun move. So I can click sun. And that's going to add this FX sun. Okay. Anytime you see this little icon next to one of these values, that means you can create a keyframe. So what we're going to do is we're going to keyframe the sun height, kind of going from there to there. Okay, so while I'm at the beginning of my clip, I'm going to keyframe the sun here. So I'm going to set it here and do create keyframe. You're going to notice it creates a little dot. Okay. Then what I'm going to do is I'm going to click and drag until the very end. I'm going to click create keyframe again. I'll move this just a little bit and set it there. Okay, and you see you've got this. When I hover over this, there's that dashed line that shows up down here. Okay, that means this thing is keyframed at the beginning and at the end. All right, so when I move this back to here, I hit the play button, you'll notice the shadows are kind of moving and the sun changes position as the clip plays through. Okay, so the sun is slowly moving its location over the course of this 10 seconds. All right. So you guys can go through and there's all sorts of different effects that you can add. There's rain, there's shadows, sky effects, there's the whole mess of stuff. 2-point perspectives, that might help with some more complex camera movement. Feel free to kind of screw around with that. If you click show all up here, there's going to be a ton more. Okay, so you know, spend some time going through all this and seeing what you guys can come up with. Once you have your video set, you have all the effects ready to go, everything looks the way you want it to. Just going to pause that, go back to the beginning. Down here, you can either click render movie, which is going to render everything out, every single clip that you have set up, or you can come up here and just do render clip. So I'm going to click render clip because I don't want to render out these other 3. And then you want to set your frames. 30 is fine. You can do production quality, make it as nice as it will go, and then come down here and do full HD, quad HD, and we don't really need to do that unless you feel like you're going to be playing it on a really nice TV. So we'll just do full HD, and that'll be fine. And then I'm just going to call this test 2, click save. This will pop up. It'll give you a time down here for how long it's going to take. Just kind of got to give it a few minutes to figure it out. And then it's going to go through and render out your movie into a playable video file. And you'll notice when it, you know, this is what it's actually going to look like, and it's kind of going through each frame and rendering it out. And it'll look pretty good when it's all done. So that's about it.